Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the DM Disruption. Dawn Brolin here, your designated motivator who's here to try to help you and your practice and your firm be the best they can be, the most productive and the most profitable. And so how do we do that? Well, for me, we implement apps and we let them do the work for us so that we can focus and concentrate on other things that are much more valuable to the client. And if we can solve for those types of things through the use of technology, I'm all in. And I can tell you, I'm here today with Jason Richelson with Bookkeep. And Jason has created what I call the set it and forget it, because that's kind of how I look at it.
Mhm.
But the tool that is doing more now than it began, when it began in the beginning, Jason, and we'll talk about that. Really, what it is doing today is solving for things we never imagined could happen. Taking a piece of paper that has sales information on it and getting it into an accounting system, here's the crazy part, accurately. And so, that's just
Mhm.
one kind of thing that Jason, I look at it, I'm like, my mind is blown about the things that you have done already, but what you are doing in the future to help us as accounting professionals stop doing journal entries and mundane posting of
Yeah.
sales, right? And reconciliation of sales, right? So welcome, and I'm so glad you're here today, Jason.
Thank you. Thanks. Great to be here. I love this topic.
It really is something that if I look back into my, let's see, 29-year-old self, which, is not that long ago, but really it's really long ago, and thinking where we'd be today with technology and what it can do to help me, for myself and my firm and my clients,
Mhm.
get things done without my involvement at the end of the day,
Mhm.
right? And so that's what you guys are
Yep.
doing. And in the beginning, it was all about getting sales posted for e-commerce software into their accounting system, right? I mean, that's where you started.
Yep. Yes, and that's still a huge part of what we do, and an important part because even the big platforms like Shopify, WooCommerce, Square, Stripe, they have good reporting, uh, but the reporting requires you to look at three different reports in order to get a simple summary posted to an accounting platform. So that's still a huge part of our business. But we've added also file import as well.
Yeah, and what's so exciting, I think about it when you're talking about having those three separate reports, and the way we used to handle the accounting on it was each one of those platforms had their own bank account. Like that was the only, I would
Mhm.
call it sort of like a workaround type of thing. But what's nice about it is that
Right.
you're able to bring that in, and not only that, you give options. So you can bring it in.
Mhm.
Let's talk about some of the options. You can bring it in where you, as the accountant, is mapping to the GL the way you want to map it to
Mhm.
the GL, right? And so that's one option. Another option
Well, yeah,
is you
we
do it for us.
we can do it for you. I mean, we will set up. So what we do is we pull all the sales from all these different sales platforms. Yeah, let's just step back to what we do. We pull sales from a Stripe, a Square, a Shopify, BigCommerce. We just added Toast and Clover in the last couple of weeks. So point of sale systems. We also work with a bunch of cannabis point of sale systems, and we have Grubhub, for instance. We pull all the sales. We generate a summary entry into your QuickBooks as a journal entry of the summary of all those sales for that day. So we always post dailies. And then when we are able to capture the payment data, we will also post a journal entry with the payment data so it will match in your banking feed. So if you use us for Square, once you set your once you connect Square and you do the mapping, or you choose to let us create the proper chart of accounts for you, it just runs every day, every single night, and we'll post two entries, one for the sales summary and one for the deposit. And then you just go to your banking feed and you match those deposits automatically. And then everything is perfectly posted to QuickBooks the way it should be with, sales by, and you have the ability to post your sales by category, food, beverage, et cetera, if you're a retail store or a restaurant. And we do this pretty much in a standard format, no matter what system you're using. I mean, we even work for obscure systems, Infor, Vagaro. We do that with the file method. But generally it runs the same way. And we have a whole team here to help you get your systems connected. We do help you with the mapping, although we're getting smarter and smarter on how we're looking at using AI to help you auto map to your existing accounts, or we create the accounts for you because we don't want to create a bunch of accounts if you're not ready for it. And and we're really here to help with full revenue accounting and sales tax, which we can talk about in a little bit.
Okay, because so just by what you just said, I now have goosebumps because I didn't know, I was not aware that the Toast integration was done. Now,
yeah, it's just live in the last week or so. Yes, it's still it's working. Yeah, we have some clients running on it, so it's going.
I knew it was coming, and one of our largest clients is a restaurant. And Nicole, who sits there and she pulls this report and she's doing the journal entry. Now,
yeah,
this is what's geeked me out. What has geeked me out over this is, number one, that she's not going to have to do that anymore. The amount of time she's going to save from doing that and knowing that it's being posted, she never has to put. I'm like, can I go? I got to go call her right now.
Yeah, go tell her.
Because, and not only, so, okay, I'm not even kidding. If you, like, my legs have goosebumps everywhere because, and we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about Davo and your integration for sales tax solutions and things like that. Nicole is no longer going to have to do the sales tax returns either. She just had a baby. She just had a baby. And I'm going to call her. I'm going to say, you won't believe this, that we have the ability now to let Toast sync, let Bookkeep do the Toast integration, and then from there, Davo's going to do the sales tax. And Nicole, you probably just saved 5 hours a month, easily.
Yep. And yeah, so what we're partnering with Davo, where I mean, you can work. I think Davo might already work with Toast directly, but
yeah, I think it does,
and they do work with Square. But the value, and if it's already working and you're using it, that's great. But the value with Bookkeep is you can connect Toast to Bookkeep, and then you just turn Davo on. So there's one connection you need to maintain, and then you don't have to worry about, I got to make sure Toast stays connected, and because generally there's not issues, but sometimes you have connectivity issues, and at the very least you want to make sure both are always working. So with us, it's a one-stop shop. So once your revenue data is coming into Bookkeep, then we post it to accounting and we send it to Davo, and Davo does what they do so well, which is take sales tax out of your checking, automatically hold on to it, and then pay and file your sales tax, which is an awesome service, and everyone should be using it because no one should pay their sales tax by themselves or for their clients, because it is a risk. I know from our own accounting firm, and for another discussion, but I've had clients come back months later and said, you're supposed to be paying my sales tax and you didn't. And then I had to go to our bookkeeper and say, I thought you were paying their sales tax. What do you mean you weren't paying their sales tax? And that's when I was like, this is a tough business. It's a scary thing.
It's a scary thing. And the liability for a bookkeeper or any level of accounting, whether you're, and there aren't really levels, by the way, there are just specialties.
Yeah.
And so in those various specialties, because everyone's just got their thing, which is great. When it comes to the compliance conversation, and David from Davo and I have had conversations about it, the compliance around it is so great. And the compliance around this is in another step, is what Bookkeep does is manages that gross sale number. So many clients end up reporting not on purpose, but end up reporting the net. They don't include the non-taxable sales. They're only including the taxable sales, and that's not the right way to report sales tax. So because we want the gross figure on the sales tax returns to add up to the gross on the tax return, and that's what's supposed to happen in an audit. So knowing that your accounting, Bookkeep is handling the revenue, the gross revenue, which, by the way, if those of you who don't know, the IRS's biggest and their job when they audit you is to tie out gross sales. You can't tie out gross sales, we automatically have a problem. They start looking deeper. And I just know this from facts, right? So what Bookkeep is allowing you to do is, number one, not have to do the actual work, which is exactly what we don't want to do, is that kind of work. We want to use our brain for bigger things. But what Bookkeep is allowing you to do, but Bookkeep alone, is making sure gross revenue is gross revenue. And that's something that unless lots of people putting journal entries in there, or lots of people just accepting the bank feed, which is what we get that, oh, but I do the bank feeds. Yeah, that's not gross sales, people. And that's what the IRS wants you to report. It's net.
Yep. And I mean, yes, it goes without saying, you cannot be booking your deposits as revenue. That is not proper accounting. Maybe it worked in the past when deposits were gross before fees were taken out, but now you can't expect your deposits to be anywhere close to gross revenue.
Absolutely.
Or yeah, because of fees, because of loans, because of the commissions, there's so much taken out of your deposits before they hit your bank account.
And we've talked about this before, Jason, the whole point of the fact that we've got the gross sales and then we have the expenses, which, the fees that come out, people want to know how much are they paying. And if we're not breaking that stuff out, and never mind the whole gross revenue conversation, which is an absolute must, but understand the cost associated with collecting that revenue, people should know that. I'm not saying they can necessarily control it. I mean, you can. I'm not a big payment processing percentage shopper. They're all within a couple percent or two. I mean, I'm not about that, but I want to make sure that I know my gross revenue is being recorded properly. And especially for those, and we'll talk about multiple platforms. People collecting.
I mean, so people and we have a solution. If you have a restaurant and they're using Grubhub, we don't have Uber Eats and DoorDash yet. They're sort of in beta, but we are working on ways to get that data and turn that into proper postings as well, minus booking all the fees and all the commissions as well out of that as well. We do have we have Grubhub right now. We do have that.
Awesome.
So, but a lot of those systems do not make it easy to get the data, as everyone here probably knows.
So here's an area, Jason, I don't think we've actually really touched on this previously, and so I might put you on the little spot here, but thinking about audits that happen. So I deal with a lot of IRS audits. An audit comes and we've got to reconstruct the books. And it's somebody who, maybe it's a contractor and they're collecting from, they're taking Square payments, they're taking PayPal payments, they're taking regular ACH payments, they're taking credit, and they're all like 4 or 5 different platforms. And we're coming in and we have to put together a really good set of books to get this audit completed. Knowing, Jason, that you guys have the ability to go back as long as that account has been open and as long as it is still open, because obviously sometimes people close them and that kind of jacks everything up. But for those that still have the active account, Bookkeep is able to go get that historical information and get it into an accounting solution.
Yes, we can pretty much every system we work with, we can go back as far as there's an account and post dailies as well as deposits to match in the banking feed. Yeah, we can run history. We charge extra for that, and per transaction to run that history. But yeah, we can definitely reconstruct that on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I think that that's important for people to understand, even not just for maybe an audit, but maybe a non-filer. Someone's been running a little sandwich shop on the side of the road and all they use is Square, and they didn't file their returns for 21 and 22. And all the sales data is sitting in Square, and we're able to go, okay, no problem. We can go in and actually get that data into the file to be able to prepare an accurate tax return. Again, focused on the gross receipts, making sure that things are in there properly, and avoiding flags and things like that. So I think that people need to understand the reasons why you want to make sure it's accurate. And Jason, we always talk about this. This is one thing. Sales are sales. Revenue, gross sales are gross sales. Deposits are different. And we know that because of timing and other things like that, right? And so people rely so heavily on the deposit.
Yep. Well, they do. And it, for many reasons, sometimes they don't understand all the different systems that the stuff's coming from. Often the owner of the business has not given them access. So all they know is the bank feed. And, that's one of the other issues. And also because it's very tedious to back that net deposit and turn it into revenue. Your gross revenue minus fees. And the other problem with those deposits is they're off, depending on the system. Square does a great job of just doing a single day as long as your settings are right. But a lot of systems batch, and they have a batch cutoff time that it could be different for every customer. It could be 7 p.m. If you're using Stripe, if you're using, for instance, Shopify as your point of sale, your batch cutoff is 9 p.m. East Coast, 7 p.m. West Coast, because Stripe cuts off your batch at midnight in GMT. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, your batch gets cut off then. And then they group. So a weekend is, Friday from 9 p.m. until Sunday from 9 p.m. that gets deposited on a Tuesday. So you can't. And so in addition, we have, if you talk about Amazon Seller, you get 2 deposits a month. And if it's December, your deposit's going to happen in the first week of January for your sales in the previous month. So you cannot rely on those deposits. And yeah, it's very tedious to go back and figure out, well, what part of this deposit that happened in the first week of January belongs to the last week of December so I can get my books accurate for last year. So
Yep.
we automate all of that for you. So your sales become, and proper, best practice and proper accrual accounting is your sales are booked on the day they were booked. So you book your sales. We book every single day, a full summary for every single day, so that you can also do comparisons day to day, week to week within your accounting platform. And especially if you're using multiple platforms, how did I do the day before Thanksgiving? Well, yeah, you can go look at Square, but then I also got to look at Shopify at the same time. But if you can just look in your accounting platform and say, okay, Square, we did in our Square stores, we did this, and on Shopify, we did this. Because we've booked dailies for you. And then your deposits are something you reconcile to your sales and make sure, my sales were this much. Wait a second, I didn't get a deposit. Do I have the bank account set up right? Do I have my settings wrong? Like, wait, I should be getting a deposit. Why is this balance so high? And I haven't seen the money hit my checking account, because that is daily sales reconciliation. That is the controller process of making sure you get paid for what you sold. And, just to finish on that thought, we have customers on Shopify. There are ways in Shopify that you can make mistakes and not close out orders, and you don't get paid. And you don't notice these things unless you're checking to make sure you got your deposits. And we do capture that. We found that with some clients, but it was way too late to correct the situation. But for them, because they signed up, 6 months later. But yeah, so it is, it is a controller's process of making sure you got paid for what you sold. That's how we started the business. It's really, I'm very a stickler for that. I think you should be checking those things on a daily basis, but of course it should be automated, because you shouldn't have to do it manually.
Well, and that's what's beautiful about Bookkeep. It sends you the report. So I look at the report and I'm like, oh, everything's green. I can move on with my day. I let Bookkeep tell me if there's an issue, which I think is, for me, I'm still paying attention, but I'm not having to be in the details of it. I'm not in the weeds. And so, with saying that, we touched on it just a little bit, knowing that OCR recognition, being able to take a report, and I'm sorry, but we always use the bowling alley example. And if I could get her to actually have a conversation with me for 5 minutes, I could probably get her solve a lot of problems in her life that she's living right now that she thinks she can't. It's like, her name's Bethany. I'm like, Bethany, dude, can you just get on the what I think I need to do this summer is just show up. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to show up and I'm going to say, okay. Because she's got a micro system for her restaurant. She has a bowling alley system for renting shoes and doing the lane rental and that kind of stuff. And then she has another little snack bar that goes through another. She's got 3 or 4 different systems that she's currently today, okay? She is manually typing it in manually. And knowing that what is that, whatever the cost is, honestly doesn't matter. Because of 2 reasons. Yeah. Number 1, her time to do it. Number 2, her ability to do it accurately and timely.
Yeah.
She probably at the end of the week, she's looking there, she's got a pile of stuff she's got to enter because she's been busy all week.
Exactly. And then you don't want to do it. And I mean, I personally, although I'm working to automate it, but I do a reconciliation of our own company billing month to month to see every single day, do we bill the right amount? What's the difference in billing? And it's 3 days I haven't done it, and I know that it's going to take me longer, and I know, and it's like, oh, this is going to take me probably a little bit, and I'm working to automate it completely myself, but it's just standard natural human behavior. The longer you let it sit, then you're not going to do it, and then it bothers you more. So it is best to get all of that automated. And yes, we can do files. We've run into issues where we basically have connected to every system that has an API. So BigCommerce, Amazon Seller, we're on every Amazon Seller platform across the world. We have WooCommerce, we have Square, Shopify, Stripe, basically eBay, Etsy. We're connected to every system where there's an API, which is an application programmer interface where you can get data automatically. Now we're dealing with systems where they have no APIs, or they're like the bowling alley. The system lives on a machine in the store. There's no access to it. But a lot of those platforms do send email reports automatically, or you can at least print out an email or download a PDF report. So we have a system now where we have a bunch of different platforms where if you can mail that to a special email address we give you, just like a bill.com email address,
Sure.
we will read it, turn it into accounting data. We write a little bit of code that then turns that into a proper sales summary. So as soon as that comes into the email inbox, it gets posted to your accounting platform. And it's just that, and there are certain platforms, certain point of sale systems that we work with where you can put an email address in where the report should be sent every night. So that makes it a fully automated process. And not every system does it, unfortunately. So we still have some people that have to download and email them in. But we're just keep working harder to make that as automated as possible across all these systems. So we can be a big help there, even if she can just, instead of downloading them and then bring them up on our screen and typing them in, she just downloads them. She can even download them to a Google Drive using Zapier, and it'll email it into us, whatever. And that's one of our clients does it that way with a SharePoint drive. It just gets dumped in a SharePoint drive and then emailed off to us. So we can't make it fully automated for everything, but we can really start helping even with that. And yes, and once you set up your account mapping, there's no typing. You just have to get it into the email inbox.
Exactly. And so let's move to, which I think that for me is like mind blowing, because there are those, I'll call them POS systems for lack of a better description, that are standalone. They're even customized. It was built for them, 20 years ago. It still works. I'm not going to break it. I think, think about automobile dealerships. I mean,
yep,
they're a great example because they're all sitting some of these guys are still in green screens, which is terrifying.
We're actually building one for tech metrics. I forget what it's called. There's one we're building a file method for. They tend to generate the accounting systems, the point of sale systems of the past. And I know because I built the point of sale system, that was my last company. They built proper accounting reports, proper summarized Z reports are proper balanced accounting reports. So when I see a file from one of those old systems, I'm like, this is so easy for us to take this, versus pulling all the orders out of Shopify and realizing that, okay, the customer didn't properly close this out and now we have to make adjustments in our code. Those reports are very easy for us to parse, but and they built really nice reports because they understood accounting in those days. And the new world of technology and payments that's kind of gone by the wayside with accounting.
It's so true. And I think about they actually they have general ledger numbers. They actually have account numbers, and it's, here's the debit and here's the credit. Like, it's not even rocket science. You can actually, manage that. But it's interesting. It's just interesting what I'm hoping that people that are listening is that they're thinking about opening your mind to your client base and saying, where in my client base are we not posting gross sales? Where in my client base? Why? Is it because there isn't an API? Is it why? Why are you, for some reason, handling sales and with other platforms, right? And so thinking about that and shifting a little bit, obviously you guys connect to QuickBooks Online, you connect to Xero, and now we connect to who?
Yes, we are, well, not yet, but soon, within the next week or so, we're going to be connecting to Zoho as well. So if anyone, Zoho is a great accounting platform. I actually use it for I have a building that I own, and I'm using Zoho as the accounting for that. And it's a great, very simple platform, and it does everything. And they have a really good API. So we're building into Zoho, and we should have that working in the next couple of weeks to hopefully to talk about it scaling new heights as well.
That's awesome. And one of the things I think about, a couple things, is accounting solutions. If you're working in an accounting solution, whatever it may be, how friendly is it with other accounting, with other platforms, with other tools and technologies that could work with that accounting platform? So you're doing less work, essentially. And we know that if we're making those decisions, and do you have clients that are in accounting? Are they dictating the accounting solution? If so, why?
Right.
And so that's another piece of our business we need to be aware of. Right.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'm excited to be working with Zoho, and we do work with Xero. Some of the bigger accounting platforms we haven't had too many asks for yet, but we would work with Intacct and NetSuite if we had clients. But we tend to be, below most of our customers are below the threshold where they're going to go to an Intacct or a Sage. But we have very, very big businesses on Shopify using Bookkeep. I mean, we have $100 million a year revenue businesses using Bookkeep. And they're using QuickBooks. So, I mean, QuickBooks can scale quite well, especially if you use a lot of apps to do all the heavy lifting, and then you use QuickBooks as your general ledger. It's a great tool. If you have to do a bunch of, corporate roll-ups or entity roll-ups, then yeah, maybe it doesn't scale so well. But QuickBooks can scale for very far, very far.
Absolutely. And of course, you always have the tools like Just Consolidate is a great tool that you could use with QBO to do combined reporting, which is why I think QuickBooks finally figured out that they're meant to be, like you said, a general ledger system. It's an accounting solution. It's not meant to be a CRM. It's not necessarily, it's, not really meant to be a full payroll solution. That's a whole sketchy conversation we won't get into, but just thinking about where your clients are landing and where they're living and what are they adding on to make the general ledger process easier. Because you're right, they don't know debits and credits. They don't know that.
They have a great, and QuickBooks has a great API. I mean, just really, really great API. So that's for us to work with. It's really, really good.
Yeah. So we were kind of chatting before. We were talking a little bit about reporting across the platform. So envisioning a client who has PayPal, they have Square, they have maybe Shopify, maybe they have some kind of store that they're working with, and being able to, as you alluded to a little bit earlier, where it's like, I got to go into all those three systems to really see what the heck's going on. And the brain doesn't do a good job of that.
Yeah. And we later this year, we'll have, we capture summarized entries and we show you a list of what we posted for you. You can look at the summaries, but we have no reporting. We aren't a reporting tool. I have the belief that nobody buys reporting tools. I mean, yes, they report on QuickBooks, but like something that would roll up Square, Shopify into a reporting tool, I just don't see selling. But we have all the data in our platform, so we are going to add a reporting interface where, I think of a current accounting firm right now. She ends up getting these clients that are on Amazon seller, 2 Shopify stores, and eBay, right? And she's got 2 PayPal accounts, right? So for this one client, and goes into one QuickBooks file, and our system is working great for her. What we don't have is, okay, how much were my total sales across all my platforms? So obviously we post it to QuickBooks. You can run those reports in QuickBooks, which is great, but we're also going to give you some even faster reporting of your sales and revenue, which will help with reconciliation as well, in our platform as well. Not to compete with some of the other tools that sit on top of QuickBooks. And we have some customers who have used reach reporting. So because our entries are automatic, you do not have to, once it's set it and forget it. It's not like how Intuit has some integrations to these apps, but you have to verify every entry and post it to your book. Ours, once you set up your mapping, they flow through every night at midnight or whatever, 2 a.m. or whenever. So this particular accounting firm has then set up a portal for his clients using Reach Reporting so that the client can go in every morning and see sales across all their channels because we've booked the sales into QuickBooks and Reach Reporting is sitting on top of QuickBooks.
Right.
So there's a lot of, and that's a really successful implementation. So you can by getting the data in, you could never do that because otherwise you'd have to make sure the data got in. But by getting the things automated, you can do those things. And those reporting tools like Reach Reporting become so much more powerful because the data is going to be in there every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And thinking about that, let's take that case scenario where you've got this person with the multiple platforms. Somebody has to program that. Now, in larger firms, we talked about this, in larger firms, sometimes what happens is people are assigned to a certain group of clients. This person's in charge of these 30 clients and they work on those clients all year round and they do everything for them. And that's, I think, the historical approach that firms take is that builds the relationship, it does a lot, and they have one point of contact, which, by the way, is not necessarily the greatest answer. To have one point of contact, now that person goes on vacation, and now the client needs them. Now nobody else knows what the heck's going on. Nobody knows, right? Where if we talked a little bit about it before is around what about specializing and thinking about this market. I think about I think about this in a very similar way to, and I'll just use the example, specialty tax credits.
Mhm.
Every firm isn't going to have somebody who is really good at specialty tax credits. So what do? They outsource it to a specialty tax credit firm.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, those, and I know some of the people out in our industry who are the expert in integrated
Mhm.
solutions, and they know them well. And how much really the person who is establishing and setting up these accounts and is in charge, oh, something broke. Okay, I got to be in touch
Mhm.
with Bookkeep and I got to get this thing fixed or
Mhm.
whatever. That is an area that I don't think people have thought a lot about. So what if you wanted
Mhm.
to be that person? And let's pretend it was just me and I'm a solo person, or maybe I
Mhm.
got a couple partners and none of us, that's just not our wheelhouse. Being able to go, oh, hey, Michelle Smith,
Mhm.
you specialize in setting these up. That's all you do. You don't do client, but you don't
Mhm.
interface with the client. You don't do, but you're going to set the systems up for me. That's
Yep.
specialization. And it could be either a larger firms having a person specialize, or for smaller firms who aren't the specialists, where are those people?
Well, I wrote an article for a Reuters accounting channel about this, looking, and I have had a small accounting firm, very a small, we had two or three bookkeepers and around 50 clients at one point. But so I do know what it's like to run an accounting firm. Um, and what I see from the outside with some of the larger firms that we work with for Bookkeep now is I do see that. I still see it siloed. You have a single accountant or controller responsible for multiple clients, and they do everything for all those clients. But I would say, because I am in the tech space and I know how Bench works, I know how Pilot works, and those guys are going after it. And there's others firms coming up that are going after all the clients with a lot of money and a lot of technology. The way they work is they have a person who's responsible for client communication and client interface. And then they have specialized teams that do accounts payable, accounts receivable, and they do it across all the client base. So there might be a single person responsible for that client, or they're responsible for 30 clients. When the client says, "Did you pay this bill?" then they reach out to the accounts payable team and said, "Did you pay this bill?" Because the accounts payable team, they use one app, they do payments all day long, they're experts in payments. So we see, obviously, from what we do at Bookkeep, I definitely see it. We already act like that for some of these accounting firms. Some use our customer care team more than others, and I'm not advocating for using our customer care team because they're quite busy. But they do say, "Hey, can you help me get this client set up? I just got a new client," and we will help you. We would prefer to train you more so that you can do it, but um, we can help with understanding this very specialized area of revenue accounting. Revenue accounting is often left to the end of the month. It's like, I pay their bills, I deal with all the problems and answer all the questions. Oh, shoot, now I have to figure out all the revenue for the month so I can get the books closed. It shouldn't be that way. It should be set up, it should run every single day, and it should be automated. But it is somewhat specialized to understand it. So we see the value of, if in your firm is dedicating one person to do all revenue accounting for all clients, ideally using Bookkeep. And it will be the same for payroll. Actually, payroll is the big example. Payroll specialist, someone who understands payroll and everything that goes along with it, is usually the first person that you specialize in your company. Just handle payroll for all our clients because that's all you're going to do. So similar model there. We think revenue accounting should be that way. And Pilot and Bench are specializing in that way, I believe, looking from the outside in. And so as the firms get bigger, it's definitely a way to think about it, because it's a specialized thing. If you have to stop your work on the revenue accounting today because you have to go figure out, well, this bill got paid, but they didn't get the payment. Okay, great. Now I got to go figure out where that payment went. Did I type the account number in wrong or whatever? And that's going to take me an hour or so. You want to stay specialized so you don't have to switch context between different tasks, because that always slows you down. It's a common understanding in engineering that if you have to switch between, I've been working on this piece of code, but now I got to go fix this piece of code. It's going to take me an hour to get back up to speed on this new piece of code or this old piece of code that I now have to go fix. So it really slows you down. So specialization will help grow and will help compete with some of the more technical uh, firms out there that are trying to take basically all the clients out there.
Absolutely. And some people are better at being the behind the scenes person, just getting that,
Mm-hmm.
making sure the connections all work, being in charge of that revenue recognition and making sure that that's running smooth. They're not really great at interpreting the information and having that call and having
Mm-hmm.
that meeting with the client to interpret the information. And
Yeah.
that's important to decipher your staff. Like if this
Mm-hmm.
person, why does this person always, and I really believe in asking them, hey, how comfortable are you talking to clients? And it's okay. The great part
Right.
about it is it's okay if they're not good at it. We have people for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Exactly.
that's definitely there.
And I will say, as someone who did have an accounting firm, I have a lot of respect for everyone who deals with the clients. I'm very happy to be. I like to move the numbers for you and make sure the numbers are right, and I will help. We love helping the accountants and the CFOs, but sometimes it is quite. It takes special person to handle some of these business owners who think they know accounting and think they know how you should do your job,
Yeah.
but don't always know.
Absolutely. And that's another really good point to talk as far as talking with your clients and consulting with them to say, hey, listen, I know this is the way you've always done it. I know that this, seems to
Mm-hmm.
be like a good process to you and you feel like it's a good process, but let's talk about why we think it might not be a great process and help them move in the direction of that automation. And sometimes that's something we overlook. It's like, all right, well, it's not
Mm-hmm.
broken though, Brolin. Well, it may not be broken, but it could be really a lot better. So sometimes we have to
Mm-hmm.
think about moving forward. And we talked a lot about the AI and how what is AI
Mm-hmm.
doing to the industry? How is it helping? What is it
Mm-hmm.
interpreting? And especially from what you guys are doing and what it's able to do to help maybe make shift and make adjustments when there's issues and errors. When it's
Mm-hmm.
learning, right? And so you guys, I'm not an expert in AI, so
Yeah. It's 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 a lot of hype still. ChatGPT can do some pretty cool things, but the way you interface with ChatGPT is very manual and quite. It can be automated, but it's still quite expensive to use that tool. So what we are using AI. So we are using a tool that can read PDF and can turn the data into numbers that we can then put into our code, and that is it's just amazing because oddly, for whatever reason, some of the reports that we get are upside down, where normally the sales are at the top. Every once in a while, we'll get one where the sales are at the bottom and the payments are at the top. I don't understand how that's possible, but 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 whatever. This tool has no problem understanding that it moved and it can read the data properly. So and that's pretty amazing. So we are using that. The the thing about AI is you have to use it in tiny little bits in the right places, and you have to deliver it to the customer in a way that you're not going to understand that things are AI. Yes, a lot of talk is being done about how you can build it into, or it can do content creation for you. It can do chat and customer care chat bubbles and stuff, and that's all great, and that there's a lot of value to that. But in terms of accounting, it has to be put in the right places where you can use it, and then you can adjust it. So it's not just going to do your taxes. Like that's might be fun to talk about, but it's not going to do your taxes. And also, it can't do your taxes unless your books are done, and it's not going to get your books done. So unless it's used in the right little places, I definitely see it being used. We're going to start testing it for account mapping. So when you connect Square, you do have to map gross sales, discounts, returns to your chart of accounts. We currently show you your chart of accounts, and you can choose. We also give you the ability to create the chart of accounts. We'll do it for you automatically, and we will create the proper account structure. But we're going to start testing. Do you have an account called Square Sales? And we're going to use the AI tool because you might call it Square, or you might call it Square Gross Sales, or you might call it Square or Square Income, or I don't know what you're going to call it, so I'm not going to
gross
hard
sales
code it.
square.
Yes, exactly. So we're testing AI where I'm going to say Gross Sales Square. I'm going to send all the income accounts in, and it's going to tell me which one it thinks is the right match. And then we'll say, is this the one you want to use, or do you want to create a new one? So that's an example of the simple place we can do it. And we're sort of testing that now. It's not live yet, but and there's so you're going to use it in places. You're going to just see it show up in different tools, and over time to help automate tasks. Places where decisions have to get made is where it should be applied in the right way. And so it is exciting. And it should excite everyone because it will just remove those mind-numbing decisions that you have to make or manual tasks that you have to do. It will free up people to do more value-added things by all means. Automation as well. Automation does that for you.
Well, and one other thing that I wanted to just make people aware of, for those that may not be aware of, but when you're talking about that, when we were talking about specialization, we're talking about having those people who really know how to do it. And like you mentioned in there, we'll help you, but we'd love for you to know how to do it yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
I think with that, what's great is that Bookkeep has a certification program. Like, we're going to teach
Mm-hmm.
you how it's supposed to get done. You'll
Yep.
go through training and you'll get certified in it. And again, being a
Mm-hmm.
specialist in that area, everybody loves a good certification, because really it just
Mm-hmm.
shows that you've gone through a training process. And so think about those bookkeepers
Mm-hmm.
who are able to say, hey, bang, I've got the badge of, I know what I'm doing. I took their certification.
Mm-hmm.
I've answered took the tests, I took the quizzes, all that stuff, and I know what I'm doing. And from a marketing perspective, if we were to switch a little bit to
Yeah.
marketing, you showing that you have a specialty in that, if you want to grow, if you are a firm that's growing and you want to focus,
Mm-hmm.
whether you want to focus on e-commerce or not, because it isn't just e-commerce, people, it's your contractors, it's your little side
Mm-hmm.
road. I have one called Egg and Cheese, and she's on the side of the road selling egg and cheese in the morning, next to
Mm-hmm.
a auto repair place. Those people
Mm-hmm.
are using Square. They're not necessarily e-commerce, the traditional thinking of e-commerce where I'm
Right.
selling shoes through, eBay
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. So
Yep.
that is another thing, Jason, that you guys are offering to help continue to educate the
Yep.
practitioners.
Yeah, we have a 5-course or 5-module certification course. It doesn't take terribly long. It maybe takes an hour to go through them or so. But you're going to learn best practices of doing revenue accounting, and then talk about how to do it. How to do these manual entries yourself, and then it goes into how Bookkeep does it, how to how to connect apps and Bookkeep. So it starts with revenue accounting and then goes into how Bookkeep helps you automate it. And yeah, we definitely see that no one gets really trained in how to do proper accrual accounting for revenue. And it's not something, I mean, a lot of old school accountants, and I still remember, I can't remember that there's a web post about how you do that zero entry sales receipt with the negative sales tax rate, take that Z report and copy it over. But it, there, it's not exactly the same because you're not tracking the payments due and you're not creating balance accounts. So we do talk about, every payment method should have its own balance account, which is a cost or a other current asset account, which is the balance for what is held at PayPal or at Square or at wherever your or Stripe or whatever. And you want to keep those are balances like bank balances that you still need to manage on your books and make sure that when money comes out into your checking, that those balances stay in check. So sort of teaching that, and you don't use your undeposited funds account for that because it's net deposited. Undeposited funds is expecting if you put $100 in undeposited funds, well, it better be $100 deposited and not $93 because then you'll never match up and they'll always sit in that screen and you'll never get them to go away, which drives you nuts. And so you never use your undeposited funds account. I don't think that's in the training. That just happened to pop into my head, but we do teach that you should have a separate clearing account for each payment method because that's how you reconcile and make sure you got paid for everything into your checking account. So that's part of the training. But yeah, it's definitely something. It's a specialized area that is very important. Obviously, especially now everything's electronic payments. E-commerce is growing. It's continuing to grow so fast. It's just ridiculous. Obviously, COVID accelerated it, and online. And by the way, restaurants are all e-commerce. 30 to 50% of orders for restaurants are done on one of those delivery platforms. So we're moving into that area as well. So understanding, how the fees get taken out and that you have to book these fees is important stuff to learn.
Yeah. And what's great about that is if you don't have enough education around that, or you don't even understand what the heck we've been talking about, just being able to go in and take that course and have the ability to learn about it. If you're doing something in accounting, it's information you need to know. And if you don't know it, it's okay. But it's not okay if you keep not knowing it. If you continue with your bad behavior.
And I would say that, Bookkeep is very specialized on e-commerce, retail, and restaurant. And for all the accountants out there, those are good places to focus. Those are businesses that are pretty stable and grow and, are, every day, much more likely to survive. So they're good clients to have and eventually grow. So it's a good place to be.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So is there anything else that you want to cover today that we might not have touched on that's just like in the back of your mind or something that just popped in?
No,
No, that's okay.
no. I think we covered everything. I mean, Bookkeep, we really want to support firms that are and you know budding accountants as well in learning about how to do this right, and learning about how automation can really help you get above the daily stuff and really help your clients grow and teach them the valuable stuff. So we're there to help, and we really would like client we would like customers to think of us as that team member. Our customer care team can be that team member that does this for you. We will train you, but we are there if you have a question. Hey, how do I connect? Toast is actually a little more complicated to connect than others, but we will walk you through it. We'll explain, and we have, of course, a great knowledge base that helps you as well. But we're always here. We have customer care in Texas, New York, and here in Brooklyn too. We have three people.
Well, I have to tell you right now, you have the greatest chat support of any tool that I've used so far. Because you're just getting that chat and somebody's in there ready to help you. And I mean that, like, because now we kind of get it. But before that, we were like, I don't know. I think I messed something up, or, oh my goodness, can you help me do this? Or we need to get historical transactions since the beginning of the year. And your team is always there on there. You're getting responses. And that's key.
Thank you. And I see every chat. I mean, I get every, well, at least the very first one, I see who's chatting with us. So, and I jump in there too sometimes, although I try, on the weekend when the team is off, I will jump in if it looks like it's a crisis. I will try and help people if I'm online.
Imagine accounting emergencies.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's one beautiful thing about accounting is my last business was point of sale systems. So if the credit card processing went down, it was very miserable. You had a lot of people very upset with you. That doesn't really happen anymore. Now everything can run offline, but there's really, it's better to be a day delayed and get the numbers in, and you don't have as much pressure or potential problems. But we try, we book entries 12:01 at night. Your entries generally get booked if that's your end of day setting. So, everything gets in there. So the next morning you get that morning email that shows all your clients have all their entries posted. So
I love that. Yeah. And I love the email, and I love seeing all the green lights, all that we're all good. Thumbs are up, and great. Clear that email. I don't even have to think about it. And so, that I think is where we're going. And so I hope for those of you that have been listening that you've gotten a nugget or two out of what we've talked about today, and that you're thinking about your client base as you've listened today, so that you're saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, I need to revisit some of these clients, and how can I automate that in a better way so that, number one, the information's accurate, but number two, you're spending your time on more maybe an advisory role as opposed to a transaction role, and moving in that direction. Again, gross sales are gross sales, man. They better be in that accounting system as gross sales and true numbers, and then the deposits flow through after the fact. But Jason, thank you so much for being here today. I know how busy you are, and I love having you on. You make me smarter every time we talk. I feel like I get smarter. I can sit up a little bit more in my chair.
I do too. I learned from you from all the audit stuff you do. I didn't know that about the gross sales in the audit. So that's great to know. It's good.
Look at everyone's
more value
learning.
Add.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, everybody.
Well,
thank you for listening. Jason, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to the DM Disruption podcast, and we'll see you next time, everybody.